Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel. In the previous video, I shared the line art process of drawing Tomimi from Arknights on my iPad using Procreate. If you haven't watched that one yet, you can click the link at the top or find it in the video description below. Today's video is all about the coloring stage, the second half of this illustration. It's also done entirely in Procreate, and in this video, I want to share how I approach the colors, the thoughts behind my decisions, and some of the little things I tried along the way. Setting the base colors. Whenever I start coloring, my first step is always to lay down a base color layer. What I call the local color, or the natural color of each part under neutral light. So I begin by filling in flat colors for every section: the skin, the hair, the clothes, the tail. Nothing fancy, just getting the foundation ready. When I say local color, I mean the natural hue of an object under daylight. Imagine a color under a 5500K white light. That's how I think of it. The pure tone before lighting or shading changes it. This step doesn't take much thinking, just patience. But even though it's simple, it takes time because every small area needs its own color. At this stage, I wasn't completely sure what exact colors I wanted to use yet. Tomimi's original design uses mostly black and gray tones, and her hair is this beautiful silvery white. But for my version, I wanted to give it a little twist, something that felt softer, colder, maybe a bit dreamlike. So instead of pure black and gray, I shifted her outfit and tail slightly toward blue-gray tones. Even her socks have a tiny bit of cool color in them. It gives the whole piece a gentle bluish atmosphere, giving the scene a different mood. While I was coloring, I started thinking about the overall mood of the painting. If I just colored her against a plain background, it might look a bit empty. So I wanted to add something subtle, a background that helps tell a small story. Tomimi is part crocodile, so normally you'd imagine her living in a warm, tropical area, somewhere humid or near water. But I thought, what if I flipped that idea? Instead of a warm swamp, I wanted to paint her standing in the middle of a snowstorm. A little crocodile girl, lost in the cold. I like that contrast. A creature that should belong in heat, now surrounded by snow. It feels poetic, a bit melancholic, but also peaceful. That's what I love about painting. You can create something impossible in real life. You don't have to follow logic. You just have to follow what feels right. So that became my theme for this piece. Tomimi in the wind and snow, a little crocodile in a world that doesn't quite fit her. But she stands there calmly anyway, filling colors and building form. While painting, I looked back at her official outfit design. She actually has a layered outfit, kind of a mix of practical and casual. There's a vest under her jacket, and the whole thing has a slightly rugged, patchwork feel. So, after blocking in the flat colors, I started adjusting small parts one by one. For example, I made sure her tail color didn't completely blend with her clothes, adding just a bit of hue difference, so it stands out subtly. For the tail, I painted a smooth gradient, darker on the back, lighter on the belly. That's how crocodiles usually are in nature. But here, I also exaggerated it a little for balance. I did something similar with the clothes. A gentle color gradient, so it doesn't feel flat. Because in this artwork, I'm not going for dramatic lighting. What I want more is a sense of atmosphere. Something airy, soft, like cold air flowing through the picture. So instead of thinking about where the light hits, I thought about how the whole scene feels. It's less about light and shadow, and more about temperature and distance. Creating depth and focus. One of the key things I focused on was depth. Making sure not everything sits on the same visual plane. So I softened parts that are further away from the viewer. The far side of the tail, the end of the weapon, the other leg. I slightly lowered their contrast and saturation. That way, they gently fade back into space. This trick helps build depth without drawing too much attention. It's something I like doing in most of my pieces, letting the main character stand out by quietly fading other parts away. It's almost like building a small stage. You dim the lights on the background, so the spotlight on the main subject feels more natural. Painting snow and atmosphere. Since the setting is a snowstorm, I wanted to capture that sense of cold motion. I used some of Procreate's built-in brushes to draw falling snow, experimenting with different sizes and levels of blur. For the snowflakes that are close to the camera, I blurred them quite a lot using Gaussian blur, so they look like they're right in front of the lens. The mid-ground snow stays crisp and visible, and the distant flakes get faint again. This creates a layered atmosphere, a soft depth that feels like you could almost step into the scene. When I look at it now, it kind of feels like a quiet moment in a blizzard. Everything muted, everything pale, and Tomimi just standing there calmly, with her jacket and tail blending into the wind. Light and shadow choices. I didn't go heavy on shading for this one. In fact, I wanted the lighting to stay subtle, almost invisible. I added a few soft shadows to show folds in her clothes, a little shape under the tail, and some gentle dips around her knees and arms. But that's about it. I didn't want strong highlights or dramatic contrast. The idea was to make the entire picture breathe evenly, not to have one specific light source shouting for attention. So the shadows are light, almost pastel. They exist, but they don't lead the story. They just support the overall harmony. When I look at it, I want viewers to feel calm, not dazzled. More like they're feeling the atmosphere than analyzing the lighting setup. Subtle color layers and transitions. Then I went back to the tail again, probably my favorite part of this drawing. I added tiny hints of color changes. Reddish tones near the base, cool blues in the middle, and a little green near the tip. It's not something you notice right away, but it makes the texture feel richer. Since I didn't rely on lighting to show form, I used color temperature shifts instead. I also used Procreate splatter brush to sprinkle some texture on the tail. Not realistic scales, but decorative speckles and irregular patterns. It's a little artistic liberty I love taking, using randomness to make something feel natural. Even though they're just small dots, they help break up flat areas and give the viewer's eyes something interesting to wander around, adjusting tones and unifying the colors. After a while, I noticed the colors were a bit all over the place. The background was grayish. The character was bluish. They didn't blend as smoothly as I wanted, so I opened the Curves tool in Procreate and made a few adjustments. I added a soft, cool blue tint across the whole image. To unify the tones, now the character and background share the same atmosphere. It feels like the same air, the same world. That single color shift pulled everything together. Then I painted a few light snow textures in the background, just faint patterns that give a sense of motion and space. It really helped the whole piece feel like it exists in a snowy breeze. The ribbon and composition flow. After that, I moved on to the ribbon, one of the key elements that adds flow to the composition. I wanted it to curve across the frame, like it's swirling through the wind. It also helped guide the viewer's eyes toward Tomimi, who's the center of focus. For the closest ribbon, the one that overlaps the camera, I applied Gaussian blur to create a soft focus effect. It's like looking through a foreground object in photography. This gives a stronger sense of depth, making the whole illustration feel more three-dimensional. Even though it's just one blurred ribbon, it changes how the viewer experiences the space. I tried to make the ribbon's movement circular, wrapping around her form, so that the viewer's eyes naturally follow it back to her face. I also added some large, blurred snowflakes in the foreground. They float quietly, out of focus, enhancing that cinematic feeling of depth and stillness. Final thoughts when I finished. I took a step back and looked at the whole piece. And I realized something. The most important part of this painting wasn't the details or the technique, but the mood. I wasn't trying to make it perfect or realistic. I just wanted to capture that small, silent moment. A character standing in the cold. Peaceful but strong. There's something really beautiful about that feeling. Like loneliness mixed with calmness. A sense of existing quietly in a world that doesn't fully belong to you, but still finding peace in it. That's what I wanted Tomimi to feel like here. Not a fierce fighter, not a glamorous hero. Just a small, strong, gentle being in the snow. Painting her this way reminded me why I love creating in the first place. Because art lets you invent worlds that reality can't hold. It lets you see a different version of what could be. Closing, and that's the end of the coloring process for Tomimi. Thank you so much for watching and staying till the end. If you enjoyed this calm, reflective kind of art video, I hope it brought you a moment of quiet and maybe a little inspiration. Next time, I'll be sharing either the coloring refinement stage or maybe a brand new piece. So if you'd like to join me again, don't forget to subscribe and follow along. Thank you again for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.